And there's a young lady that is backstage. First of all, to get backstage to any of the shows that I host is like a miracle. We have so much security that there's no way you're going to get backstage because we have about 100 competitors going through. They have their belongings for you guys that competed. We don't let anybody backstage. The trainers have to pay to come backstage. Anybody that has to, you got to pay. You're not going to be backstage because we have too many people. And this is before any of this COVID or anything like that happened. So this young lady's backstage telling everybody, beautiful by the way, she bought a new dress, went backstage and told everybody, I'm here to present trophies. Now mind you, if you know me, I picked my trophy presenters months in advance. If you ever presented trophies for me, you understand. Months in advance, we planned the show 3, 4, 6 months in advance. We're ready, we got the presenters, we have extras just in case somebody drops off, somebody gets pregnant, somebody's competing, something happens, and then we got to get another presenter. This lady's backstage, and I'm looking across the side, and I see her, but I didn't really know who she was. After the show, I go to one of our sponsors, my friend Barbara, who has an Intrigue Couture, amazing clothing, by the way. And she had bought a dress from Barbara. Barbara tells me, did you see that lady, Carolyn? Did you see her? She bought a dress, she's so beautiful. Didn't she look beautiful? Who? She never made it on stage because my people told her, you're not a presenter. Her trainer told her she was a presenter. Her trainer has nothing to do with my show. Nothing. But he told her, go, you're gonna present trophies. So she, confident, walked into the show, walks to backstage, gets backstage, and she's literally sitting right next to the presenters.
Wow.
That's how far she made it. She never made it on stage though. Because my people know better. Right? Like Sandy was saying, like, oh no, Dave is like this. I am checking the judges, checking the competitors, checking with my backstage people. I'm checking the presenters, making sure they're standing on stage, making sure the awards, making sure they have the right awards. There's a lot going on. And I still have to entertain. So she got there, she got backstage, but she never made it on stage. But Barbara told me who she was. And she says, you need to talk to this woman. I told her about you. You guys gotta talk. So about a week later or 2 weeks later after the show, I think it was a week later, Carolyn, was it a week later or two? I'm flying to Europe. And I forgot, I think I was getting a haircut. And I'm in the parking lot outside the place I get my haircut at the time in South Beach, and something tells me that I need to apologize to her. Okay. I felt bad. Because now I knew the backstory. Because now the promoter, Andres, called me and said, this is an amazing young lady backstage. She said, you know, this trainer told her that she was going to be a presenter, blah, blah. I felt so bad. And she made it backstage. She just never made it to the stage. And I called her, and I apologized to her. And she's like, what are you apologizing for? Because someone told you were supposed to do something, and you showed up, and I didn't give you the opportunity. And I'm sorry, I didn't know. No, nobody could tell me because nobody can get to me. As soon as I step onto that podium, no one gets to me. So no one can give me any direction. Everything is, now I'm controlling the whole show. So I literally apologized to her, and I think we spoke for over an hour on the phone. In my car on, AC on, and I'll never forget it. I shared my story, she shared hers. And since that moment, we have been, right? It's like kindred spirits. We just know that we're in each other's lives to support each other and help each other through whatever we have to go through, right? So she has, not only that, she introduced me to her agent for my book. She sent multiple people, I don't even know how many people, to her agent. No one has ever been signed by her literary agent. Her literary agent works with top people. I'm not going to be a name dropper because it's not about that. But anyway, top people, including Carolyn and Brent, as you can see. These are all her books. She just wrote 2 new ones. Her books in the Library of Congress. Her books are bestsellers. She's a TV host. She's worked with top like CNN. I can't name them all, right? You're working on a new deal. I can't talk about it, I know. But her life, really her purpose came through her I don't want to say cancer, but something in her life happened that was like my cancer that tried to literally destroy her life. I always share that your story reveals your purpose. Her story reveals her purpose. And we become so close, like anything that I do. She has now presented in over almost 6 or 7 or more shows for us, right? And every time she gets on stage, she looks dapper, like stunning. She gets on that stage, shows off. She's a national competitor, qualified for nationals, won shows at 60. But that was just a goal. But I'll let her tell you a little bit of that story. But the cool thing is now she stepped on that stage. I shared the stage with her multiple times after that happened. So if I don't make that phone call, God only knows, right? So you take that chance. That person's in an elevator, that person's in the gas station, that person is whatever. If God tells you to do something, do it. Be obedient. And I did. And when I say to people, I pray, people that know me, I do. I pray about what I do. And if I share it with you, there's something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. That's not for me. It's some affirmation and confirmation is going to happen in your life. So when Carolyn, I want to thank you for, you took that phone call, right?
Yeah,
but more importantly, she's come to all my seminars for over a year. She used to come to all my seminars. She's been very busy writing books. But that's the only excuse I'll take. You're a best-selling author, you're writing a book, that's okay, I got you. But more importantly, I asked her, would she come speak? And she said yes. Today we have 2 amazing speakers. I'll talk about our second speaker in the second session, but for now, I want to introduce one of my angels in my life. Yeah. Best-selling author, competitor, life changer. This is Carolyn A. Brent.
Yeah. To be here. I have a story, but I want you guys to take a look at this green grass and imagine yourself standing on the green grass. And remember, the grass is never greener over there. It's green where you stand. Amen. Okay? And we're going to talk about planting the seed where you stand. Just literally just watering it and growing it. But I'm going to share with you, I'm 64 years old. I competed when I was 57, and I competed again when I was 59 and a half, or 50, almost 60 years old. But this is why I did it. This person right here is my father. In 1997, I got a phone call. I was at the top of my career as a clinical education manager. I was making high 6 figures. I thought, oh my God, I'm living the American dream. And then suddenly, the phone rang, and my father needed me. And I flew to Colorado. I was living in California to check on my dad. And my father had lost like 50 pounds. He was single because my mother had passed. And I'm looking at Dad, my superhero. Superheroes don't get sick, do they? At least my superhero that always protected me never got sick. But that one day, Dad was sick. I took him to the VA hospital, and the doctor said, oh my God, thank God you're your father's caregiver. I went, oh no, I'm not my father's, no, fix him. I'm not his caregiver, I'm his daughter. He's my best friend. Superheroes just don't get sick. And if they do get sick, somebody could fix them. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. But that was not the case. So it took 2 years of me flying back and forth from California to Denver, Colorado to check on my dad because there was nobody there to check on him. And finally, one day I talked him into moving to California with me. And that was fabulous. But keep in mind, I had adult siblings, brothers and sisters that were married. But because I was single, they say, oh, that a girl, you could do it, Carolyn. You could do all of it. So I stepped down from my position as a clinical education manager, earning this high 6 figures, to be just a representative for my father. And guess what? It was worth it because I was with my father every step of the way for 12 years. So let me show you what 12 years looks like. This is the medical records of my dad. being a caregiver, I want people to know, and I told this around on television, people think I'm crazy, but back then when I was a clinical education manager, I learned that you have to, everything's based on clinical medicine. You have to know. So Dad had like 10 doctors. So what am I going to do? I'm going to schlep this big binder. Thank you, David. I'm going to schlep it here, schlep it there, and just schlep it. And there's the medical, the financial, the legal, everything is in there. His private assistant living. Thank you, David. And literally. Because I wanted people to know this is what caregiving looks like. But caregiving and self-care, wouldn't you agree they go hand in hand? You got to do both. But I didn't do both. And let me tell you why. I broke my foot. And because I broke my foot, the doctor said, Carolyn, you got to be off work for 3 months. I said, oh, no, doctor, no, I can't, because I got to pay this $6,500 a month for private assisted living for my father. Well, Carolyn, you could take the Family Medical Leave Act. No, I couldn't, because my company said, if you go off, you're still responsible for your territory. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to go to work. So I went to work against my doctor's orders. Here it is, 20 plus years later, I'm bone on bone in my spine because I didn't listen to my doctor and I messed my body completely up. That's what I did for myself. And then the doctor told me, well, one of these days you're going to be in a wheelchair. And I said, oh, you don't know me. I'm never going to get in a wheelchair if I could help it. And then I started thinking about self-care. What am I going to do? But this is what has driven me to write 8 books right here. After being a caregiver for 12 years, my father had a massive hematoma, which is bleeding on the brain. All of a sudden, suddenly and unexpectedly, my family decided we're going to take over his health because they thought Dad had money. True story. So my identical twin sister filed a restraining order against me in 3 different counties in California to take over my father's health because she thought, oh, Daddy's going to die. I know he has money. I know he has money. He's going to die, so we're going to take over, Carolyn. That a girl, the end of that story. And I found myself in 3 courts with false allegations of elder abuse. That happened to me 3 times. And guess what? It almost killed me. So when they took my father, and my father was buried, I didn't even know he died. Did not even know he was buried. So imagine what happened to me, the caregiver. I'm going to tell you what happened. I thought I was having a heart attack. I checked myself into the hospital. I said, I'm depressed. I just want to die. Just kill me. I just want to die. And they checked me in, and they thought I was having a heart attack because I told them, I'm having a heart attack. I know this is a heart attack. So the cardiologist came in, and they did an EKG on me, and they looked at me and said, you know what? You're just having a panic attack. And all of a sudden, when the doctor left the room, and I'm sitting there, laying in the bed, my dad, his spirit, came to the foot of my bed. I felt his spirit. And he said, Carolyn, what are you doing in that bed? First of all, I thought I was going crazy. And I sat up in the bed, and my father's spirit said, you pour into yourself like you poured into me. And that moment, I got out the bed, I checked myself out of the hospital, and I became an elder care and caregiver advocate now for over 14 years. My work is in the Library of Congress. I'm named an authority by the Library of Congress because I wrote the very first book called Why Wait? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Preparing Emotionally, Financially, and Legally for a Parent's Death. And I just kept writing and writing. And then the Holy Spirit said, you got to teach people about wellness. How could you teach wellness or write about wellness unless you put yourself, I loved what you said. You said that you decided to go into bikini modeling because you wanted to be like an anchor for the people that you are helping. And because my work is where it is, I said, I want to help people too. So at 57, I got on stage, and I did not know what I was doing, but I got on stage. I had to go through that stage fright. I got second place. No, that wasn't good enough for me. I said, when I get ready to turn 60, I want to win number one. Dear God, show me, lead me, guide me. And guess what? I got the best coaches, and that's when I met David. I met David right before I turned 60. I got on stage and I won. Yeah. Number one for my category. Oh, yeah. And then the Holy Spirit had me to write another book. I mean, I've written so many books called Transforming Your Life Through Self-Care, a guide to tapping into your deep beauty and inner worth. So I tell people, the grass, and David, I'm sorry I messed up your floor, but I want you ladies to see, you're standing on the best thing you could ever be, and that's you. You are the best. And when God gives you a mission, nobody can stop it. And people say, well, Carolyn, how did you know your purpose? And this is what I say. It keeps pulling you. You can't move away from a purpose. Do you think when I was a kid, I said, when I grow up, I want to be an elder care, caregiver, advocate. That's definitely not a sexy subject that people want to talk about, but God placed it in me. And think about this. Why would I do all that medical stuff for my dad? I have not seen it to date, that people schlep around their medical records. But see, when I go to the doctor, I schlep around my own medical records, but it's not a big book. It's just a little file to let them know, you know what, you're dealing with someone that knows her body. So let me train you and teach you about me. And then maybe we could get together and do something and keep making, hold on.
Hey,
come on. Nice. We got to go that other step. So I'm looking at my life. Now I know we're all going to die for something, but one thing that I would love for anyone to say at my memorial, that she died trying, and that's it. That's my story. I'm very grateful. My work is in Stanford, Harvard, all these amazing libraries. I didn't put them there. It was because of the passion, because of the grace, because of the mission. So when you have a mission, nobody could ever stop you. One last thing I want to say. My father's words to me, and this is his quote. He said, don't quit. Never give up. Believe for a miracle. You got to believe it. Press on until you win. And that's what my father, it's in all my books. I put that quote in there. And so I press every day, pressing and pressing and pressing. And I'm never going to stop pressing. And this is the man, I tell you, I never knew where he was buried until October of last year, I discovered where he was buried, but it took me about 10 years to want to even go and discover where he was buried because I had a lot of work to do. So I've been trying to pass laws in California to help the caregiver. And last year when I wrote a book called Amazing Grace, how my father taught me how to rejoice in the word of our Father. He said, you don't have to find my grave. You know where I am. I'm with God. I'm not at that resting place. So you don't have to do it. And he said, besides that, and David, I promise I'm leaving. How do we go down the grass? That because the world your books are available in libraries, you don't have to get laws changed. People could change by just having the information. Okay, so what God placed in my heart way back then, my father's spirit, to me he's alive, although I never knew when he died or that he was buried, and that's pretty doggone tragic. Mm-hmm. But that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm living my purpose. I'm living my dreams. And David, thank you so much. And I'm sorry I messed up your floor. But do you ladies really get about this? Standing on, I mean, we are standing on our own. Come on. So look over there. We are on it. And you ladies, just by you come in here today. You're watering that grass by listening to David. David had me in tears. David had me in tears last night.
What?
Let me tell you what David did to me.
I only called her
I
to
was
say
at
hi.
my computer, and David said, Carolyn, what are you doing? Are you ready for tomorrow? Yes. And I said, well, David, I'm going through identity theft, and I'm really upset. This is a long thing. He said, Carolyn, God has you in this. You know, where's your belief? You know, Carolyn, this is nothing. And after I thought about it, a tear came down. Because if I could go through losing my daddy, that person is not going to victimize me. I'm going to go and kick her, blah, 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 in court, because you cannot steal my name. That's my name, Carolyn A. Brent.
Amen.
And that's my story. And David, thank you for having me to cry yesterday, David. I'm cool. Anything else? Any questions?
Well, we have to.
Oh, thank you.
I wasn't kicking her out. I was telling Gary to give me a little time. One of the things that always touched me, I think, in our TV interview that we did, our podcast, our radio interview that we did, I always share that with you. So you lost your father how long ago?
2012.
Okay. And in 2012, I literally made one of the biggest decisions of my life. I walked away from my career. And February 1st, 2012, I walked away from my career. I walked away from a partnership, 6-figure salary, celebrity client, South Beach. Walked away from Gold's Gym South Beach, February 1st, 2012. I was in California, literally, Valentine's Day. Bought the ticket immediately after I resigned to work on my story. My father passed away 2 years ago. And listening to Carolyn, it was almost like God was preparing me for my loss. So my father was supposed to die at 50. He lived to 85. And the day I quit in 2012, I made a promise that I was going to take my dad to every medical doctor appointment that he had for the next 7 years. And I was able to fulfill that promise until the day he passed. Because I walked away from my business. Every month I was in Tampa. I drove to Tampa every single month to make sure that my dad knew that I was going with him to the doctor. So my mom, one less worry for my mother. So it was almost a preparation. But there's something that Carolyn wrote in her book, and she shared it with me, and it was about the sand. You know where I was going. You knew where I was going. So her father shared something. She was asking, this is when you were a kid, right?
I was 18.
You were 18. Yeah, teenager, you know. And she asked her dad, "Do you love me?" Is that what? Remember?
No, we were just
talking.
sitting, yeah, we were just regular father-daughter conversation.
And it was about love, but your father shared
About the pelican.
about the pelican.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Of course I want you to tell the story. That's why I came up here. Because I can't even go through the story without crying. But it's because we forget that, like you said, her father's with her, my father's with me. If you ever lost a loved one, you know, sometimes we forget how much time we were away from those loved ones.
Right.
Did we miss them through those times?
Yeah.
No, we were too busy. We're doing our life. So if we just focus on the times that we did spend with them, and the amazing moments that happen in life, even if you were 5 or you were 50, all of a sudden they're with you.
Yeah.
You don't have to go anywhere. By the way, there's Kleenex in every table. If there's not, you can just call a friend, get a Kleenex from somebody. I got Kleenex for this one, Gary. I got Kleenex. But it was interesting because I talk to my father every single day of my life.
Yeah, me too.
The photo is before I walk out of my apartment. And I speak to my father every single day, and all I wanted him was to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And God always shows me through people that met my father that he was proud of me.
Yeah.
So he's still using people. When I go to Tampa, when I do a fashion show in Orlando, when I do whatever, and people met my father, they tell me about my father to me. And that's how my dad's always still with me. So when she shares her story, but this story about the sand, about the pelican, it just summarizes love.
Yeah.
So I want you to, that's why I was telling Gary, I would never kick you out. This is like, I mean, your story's amazing, and that's just a bit. You can buy the books, you can follow, or you can watch your TV shows. But I want you to share a little bit of the story, because that story for me, it's like, for me, this is going to be a highlight of this event.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. It's an amazing story. It goes to show you that I was very close with my father. When I was 18 years old, I moved from Denver, Colorado to Los Angeles because I was one of those kids that, has anyone ever heard of the Soul Train? I was watching Soul Train in the 60s. I'm going, oh, when I grow up, I'm moving to California where the sun is shining. And I did exactly that. Sometimes, I get everything that I say. I mean, literally. So when I turned 18, I got a job with Western Airlines and became an airline stewardess. So I was able to get my father and my mother, when she was alive, tickets for like, $10 to come and visit me. So every birthday celebration, March 8th, I'd get my father a ticket to come from Denver, Colorado, and it's snowing in Denver in March, and he would come to California. And this one particular day, on a Wednesday, the sun was kind of hanging behind some clouds. And because we're from Colorado, we thought 64 degrees was warm. We were just happy. But the California people, they weren't on the beach. They thought it was cold. I thought they were crazy. But Dad and I, we walked along in the sand, and we decided, let's sit here in the sand. So we're sitting in the sand, our father and daughter, and then my father, being a pastor, there's always a story that he shares with me, but he was a very eloquent storyteller because I never knew he was telling me the story until years later. He said, Carolyn, do you see that pelican flying way over there? I said, Dad, yes. That is the most beautiful pelican I've ever seen. Now keep in mind, we're from Denver, Colorado. You don't see pelicans in Denver, Colorado unless you go to the zoo. But I've never seen one in real life flying high. And he said, Carolyn, imagine if God gave that pelican only one job to do in life. And I said, well, Dad, what would God tell that pelican to do? He said, imagine if the pelican had to take one grain of sand, put it in his pouch, and fly all the way to the moon and drop off that grain of sand and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, removing all the sand off the face of the earth. He said, how long do you think it would take that pelican? And I looked at Dad, I said, this has got to be a trick question. And he said, it would take the pelican forever to remove all the sand off the face of the earth. He'll never finish. And he said, I want you to remember, one day, I'm not going to be here with you. I went, oh no, what do you mean you're not going to be with me? He said, because God's going to call me home to glory. I said, Dad, la, 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 I don't want to hear that. Don't want to talk about it. He said, but Carolyn, I want you to know, for as long as it takes the pelican to remove all the sand off the face of the earth, that's how long my love will be with you.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, all the hell I've gone through, I remember the sand. All the time today when I go to the ocean, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the pelicans. I go, Dad, I know you're here with me all these years, but I was only 18 years old when my daddy had that conversation with me about end of life. Of course, when you're 18, you don't ever think that time is going to come. But all of us, one day, either we're preparing to be a caregiver, or we're stepping out of caregiving, or I'm a caregiver for me, and I'm my worst client. Because I don't want to get out the bed to go to the gym in the morning, so I got to kick myself in the butt and go, get up, get out, get busy. So every day I have that kind of conversation. I'm arguing with me, going, just one more minute, no, get up, get it over with. And then once I'm out of bed and I go to the gym, I go, Carolyn, thank you for forcing me to do that. Yeah. I talk to myself. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I am my best friend. Amen. I talk to myself, I tell myself, because I've worked in the field of medicine for so long as a clinical education manager, I don't want to be in a nursing home. Hell no, not me. Amen. So I'm working even now to take care of me for as long as I can. And once again, it's a full-time job, but I do it. I listen to my body. And that's another conversation. But David, anything else? Because you know I'm full of stories. I have lots of stories. That's why I have lots of books.
Well, listen, you're always going to be welcome back to every of my seminars. You just have to say yes. What did you ladies get from that? I just wanted to ask. Gary, would you help me with the, or you want to put these, where can we put these for now?
Oh, just put it in place.
Okay. Gary, help me with this. What do you ladies get from that? Yes, Andy?
She reminded me of Job.
Job, the story of Job in the Bible.
What he was suffering through.
Yeah.
Next to me? Next to me? Okay.
But the inspiration that through the most excruciating suffering, there's a purpose and a reason, and it turns you into something you've never been before.
Yes.
So you're, and the reason I'm asking that is because when you get ready for session 1, you'll see that the tie-in why she's here. And when you get ready for session 2, you'll see the tie-in why Lisa Diamond is here. Also a best-selling author, shining beyond cancer.
Wow.
Also a TV host and podcast.
Wow.
Also into fitness. We actually know a very close friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, that we're tied into forever with our friend Sylvie. And you have how many? You still have 1 gym or 2? One gym. So she's still kicking. So it's the fitness, it's the health, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's everything. And you'll hear the same thing about Lisa. There's a spiritual component to everything. There's a mental component to everything. When you talk about self-care, it's not just physical. Okay? Because before you go to a gym, you have to talk yourself into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't go to the gym without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And sometimes you need that spiritual, like, okay, God, get me up, because I'm not getting up, especially when you're dieting for a show, especially when it's your first show.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine at 50 taking the first step to competing in a show.
Yeah.
As hard as it is for a 20-year-old to compete, at 50, I can't even imagine. Any other thoughts? We can talk about, yes?
I guess I'll just chime in. I guess the biggest thing I got from it was just always taking care of yourself. Even though like we have a lot of like other people we want to take care of or help, you always have to remember that if you can't help yourself or take care of yourself, you can't help someone else.
That's right.
So it's like start with yourself and then you can always help someone else from there.
Yeah.
Start with yourself and then you can help others from there. Miss Carolyn, hey Brent.
Thank you. Here we go. Thank you.
Carolyn.
It was good.